Hello, and welcome to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast for the slot car fan, racer, collector, or just plain curious. I'm Scott Brownlee,
And I'm Pedro.
and in this show, we hope to be discussing what's caught our eye, my return to club racing after several months, and the much anticipated Bastos rover from Scalextrics. But first,
We can't use that. I think it's okay to stumble on, but we can't use that, Scott. I'm sorry. I have to tick a box that says there is no swearing or something similar on YouTube, and I can't license.
Right,
Start again.
Welcome to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast for the slot car fan, racer, collector, or the just plain curious. I'm Scott Brownlee.
And I'm Pedro.
In this show, we hope to be discussing what's caught our eye, my return to club racing after several months, and the much anticipated Bastos rover from Scalextrics. But we'll be talking about that later. First, what caught your eye this week?
Oh God, we've planned this so much, and suddenly I'm completely thrown. What caught my eye this week? Am I allowed to change what caught my eye to what rattled my cage? Because I think that's more me than caught my eye.
Well, it had to catch your eye first, didn't it?
Yeah. There's a flow there, isn't there? Catches my eye, winds me up a treat, and I'm talking about NSR racing, aren't I? Obviously, they announced that they're going to do the Audi R8 in Martini liveries. Have they not already done the Audi R8 Martini liveries? I feel like they've done everything in Martini liveries.
I think Martini is the new Gulf, isn't it? I think if you can't paint it orange and blue, paint it some indeterminate colour and put Martini stripes on it. And we must be buying them because they wouldn't do it.
Well, stop right there with the we. We are not the royal. We are not. Certainly not. But I just despair. I roll my eyes in disbelief, and I shake my head in disbelief every time I see news from NSR. Also, what rattled my cage from the Italian artisans of slot is their plans to put the, I'm going to get this wrong, Copersucar livery from 1978/1979 onto their 1986/1989 generic F1 car. My cage was well and truly rattled.
Well,
here we go with the excuses.
I know that is something. No, they're not excuses. It's a sort of, I kind of sympathise, but I feel a hypocrite because one of the joys of my life is because it's not very full, is that on Gran Turismo, where the edit mode for the liveries is you can make up liveries on cars. And I have spent hours and hours, in fact, probably longer than I've spent racing, making liveries for cars. And I tend to make old liveries fit new cars. So, for example, all the TWR Jag Le Mans liveries and Group A liveries I've replicated on the Jag's modern sports car GT thing. Now they never raced on that, but I think that's cool and I like it. But I see what you mean about I think it feels there's a kind of double edge not quite rightness because it's not quite the right livery and the car is not quite the right car.
It's very,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but it's very much not. It's inexcusable. I'm sorry, and you're right. People must be buying these things, but these people want. Someone needs to have a word with these people. Their guardians need to take over control of their bank accounts and stop them from doing this because they're just encouraging. That nice lad, who was it? Electric Dreams interviewed him, and I had a lot of respect for the chap. He's only 23 and he's taken over from his father. A similar sort of thing happened to me, but my dad wasn't making slot cars. I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for the fact they want to keep manufacturing in Italy. Just stop with the fantasy liveries. Oh, I nearly swore. And hypocrisy. You mentioned hypocrisy. Sorry to talk over you. You mentioned hypocrisy. I fully accept that I am very hypocritical on a whole heap of things, but fantasy liveries.
Okay, well that's worth bearing in mind for the future. Was there anything that caught your eye that didn't rattle your cage?
Oh, well, that's asking me to be positive about things, which is much more tricky. Well, the Slottit, we discussed this earlier. Slotblog.de, I believe, is the correct URL. They did a video interview with one of the Maurizios in German, but you've told me that if I watch it on a computator, then I can get the translation subtitles.
You can.
This is hypocrisy, and it's not its highest, but they showed the box just, well, they showed the car as well, but the box made a big impression for the new coming Policar C2 126 Ferrari, which is a peachy little car, but it's actually got a peachy box. And I'm really anti boxes and the faff that goes into boxes. But there I was hypocritically going, that's a
Okay.
nice box.
So what you're saying is that you don't like to be thought that you could be influenced by marketing, but you've been influenced by
Oh,
marketing.
no. Let me defend myself here. I haven't been influenced by the marketing. The model itself stands alone. It's a fine model, and I would buy it even if it came in a plain cardboard box.
Brown paper
Do
bag.
you, maybe you don't remember, but I've got a what's called a Hong Kong Cobra, which sounds like a cartoon series. Hong Kong Fooey, sorry. I've got a Hong Kong Cobra from Scalextrics, which I believe came over from China or Hong Kong, probably Hong Kong, thinking about the name, in a cardboard box and got sold in cardboard boxes. I believe they were probably supposed to be transferred in the UK into a more traditional packaging, but somehow they made it to market in these plain cardboard boxes. And I have absolutely no problem with that. I think that's how everything should be sold. Apart from C2 126s in there, very nice boxes.
Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because about 25 years ago, when I didn't have quite so many cars, and the vast majority of them were Scalextrics, the black box with the cellophane front
Yes,
that people probably
yes,
remember.
yes.
And I decided it would be a clever and wise and space efficient thing to do if I took all the cars out the boxes and I just burnt all the boxes. And of course, now I have crates and crates of cars in boxes, and somewhat regret burning about, I don't know, 100, 120 perfectly sensible boxes. So, but I think it's a good question. I remember from way back, and I'm possibly wrong. And again, if anybody knows better, please contact us and let us know. If a model slot car or diecast is in its box versus one which is not in its box, it's about a 50% price difference if you're looking at it as an investment. But I maintain I'm not buying them for an investment. I'm buying to play with them, and I think you buy yours to race
Yeah.
yours. And although you think I'm a collector, we'll argue about that another time. Some people are collectors, and some people want the box. There was a post on, I think it was on Slot Forum or Slot Racer, forgive me, I can't remember which. And someone said new arrivals, and they had two of everything. There was about 4 cars, but they had 8 boxes because they'd got 2 of everything. So,
Wow.
being nosy, I said, why double? So they said, oh, some are shelf queens for keeping and some are for using. Now that's an expensive commitment to wanting a pristine one in a box,
It
but
is.
clearly that's what they want. So I think it's all that thing about there's different people want different things from their toy cars.
Yes, but why don't they want the same as me, Scott? I don't understand.
Thank God is the answer I would
Whoa.
give to that one.
Outrageous.
Anyway, are you going to? So you're going to buy a Ferrari 126 C2,
Oh, it's inevitable. You can't
but
avoid that, can you? Just look at the pictures.
I remember you saying, and I think I quote, "I don't like
Oh, I
Ferraris."
don't like Ferraris. Did you
Okay,
rewind the tape? About 5 minutes ago, I said something about being a hypocrite.
sorry. Yes, that's absolutely true.
The problem
Um,
with that one, uh, I need to do more research because the problem with that one, as I see it, is wings. They look very delicate, and I think I might shed a tear if I break them. And I wonder if
well,
there's
I
a more
understand.
snowplowy one that they did later.
There is, and I believe, and I don't know because I haven't got one yet, that the other wing is in the box underneath.
Oh,
So even if you buy the Long Beach one with the ultimately illegal wing, because although they did the race like that, they were disqualified afterwards.
oh, really?
The normal wing is in the back, I believe. I don't, as I say, if someone's got one, uh,
Is
write in and tell
is
us.
that factoid something that gets lost in translation when you're watching a German video interview?
Possibly. I mean, I think I agree with you. I think the Slotbog D videos have been excellent, very well produced, and I use the YouTube translate function so I can get the gist of what's going on. Well, but some of them are done in English, and
Oh.
again, it helps if you know roughly what someone's talking about. But the real joy is it's great imagery, particularly of, I think, the Skeletrix range you noticed.
Oh, we agreed that.
Which was,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he picked them up.
And
Sorry, he picked them up, didn't he? The Jag. He picked up the Mark
Jag.
One, I think, and turned it over. And what a joy to behold! It's an inline motor configuration.
As I've said before, and it'll become a theme, I like the top of slot cars more than the bottoms, and you're the other way round.
Well, you mean the innards rather than the bottoms? I like.
Well, it doesn't work if I say top and innards, does it?
Probably not. But one of the things that may have stopped me from purchasing a Jag Mark 1 or Mark 2 would have been if it had been some foolish kind of front motored, but we've got a full interior thing, which I'm convinced, somehow I convinced myself, obviously, that that's what Simon said in the release, that it was going to be a full interior, which immediately made me shed a small tear.
Again, I'm sort of repeating and not quoting because I'm not looking at the screen. I think he said, either together or separately, that there would be a full interior, but that it was a regular running gear,
Well,
sort of inline motor. So how they've achieved that, I don't know.
Get
But we'll find out when we get
you and
we'll
your
get a grubby little hand.
I was going to say, get you and your attention to detail and actually listening to what people say rather than making things up.
Only sometimes.
Yeah.
If I can throw in my own caught my eye.
Did it rattle your cage or did it catch your eye?
It definitely caught my eye.
Okay.
And it was with a sense of some relief because I can't have one because there's only 200 of them and they're all pre-sold. So I don't even have to worry about the fact that it's so expensive. I couldn't really justify it. But it's the slot classic Mercedes-Benz 170 SD parts van. Now, I didn't know it existed. I mean, I'm not that big a 50s car fan, but it's basically a 1950s Mercedes van painted sort of a lovely Air Force blue and white with some sign writing on it, white wall tyres, delicious. I already fell in love with it. I thought that's great. Then I read what was written on the side, and it's a model of the parts van from the Mercedes dealership in Argentina that was owned and run by Fangio. And I just think that's an extra layer of cool loveliness. But I can't, even if I had the money, I can't get one because they're all sold.
It's a nice touch. It's a nice model. I don't understand. I'm slightly fearful of all this van stuff that's happening at the moment. I mean, now Hobby Classic are getting in on it as well. Nice little artisanal manufacturer. Vans. I don't quite. You're quite a fan of Hobby Classic. I like that they exist, but I don't understand it.
This is Slot Classic. You've got to be careful.
Oh, sorry, who have I said? Hobby Classic, Slot Classic.
Hobby Classic, yeah. So Slot Classic, I don't think are Hobby Classic.
But don't they both sort of work in the same retro world of resin?
No, Hobby Classic are a store, aren't they? They're a big store who also make things. So
I didn't know.
There's an interview. Yeah, there's an interview. Well, the website is rather lovely. And in fact, the website shows old cars for sale for prices, which if they're on UK eBay, I would be snaffling them up. So I'll probably have to go and look at prices of cheap flights to Spain and take a big empty suitcase.
Buy one and get it shipped over, Scott.
Because it's difficult, isn't it? Because of the B word.
Is it? I've had stuff from Evotech Slot Shop with no duty to pay.
Oh, right, there you go. Well, you must let me know how you achieve these administrative treats. But before we get apolitical and be boring, let's talk about the real excitement of this week. And of course, I'm talking about the new, highly anticipated, thank God it's red, TWR Bastos rover from Skeletrix.
Yay! And the crowd go wild.
The crowd go wild. Well, as anyone following me on Twitter will know, and if you're not following me on Twitter, why aren't you? I shared with the world that I was quite excited about the arrival, and the good people at Pendle will know that I was so excited I was pestering them when it was coming.
You were you?
I was, yeah. So I knew it was coming on Friday, and I knew roughly when it was being delivered, and I was practically pacing up and down. So as a consequence, I saw the postman approaching the front door, so I was there to meet him.
Oh my God, you mugged the postman.
I chatted to the postman. I live in a quaint Sussex village where we chat to postmen. Anyway, he was. It was great. So I was very excited and took it out of the box, and I thought it's lovely. Took the magnet out, put it on the track, and it went beautifully. And I'm, as I say, very relieved it's red. Listeners will know that the earlier Camaro may not quite be the red it should have been, but
May not
yeah,
quite
it's great.
be. It
And
definitely.
you've got one too, haven't you?
I'm showing it, dear listener, to the microphone now. I think it's a piece of automotive joy. It's a lovely. It captures the shape fantastically well. When I got mine out of the box, took a look and thought,
Actually, you're not just showing it to the microphone; you're hitting it off it because I can hear ping, ping,
"Oh,
ping.
sorry, I realised that I've just done what I've just done. Apologies, dear listener." I got it out and looked at it and thought it was possibly too long, but it looks like a Rover SD1. It looks like a peachy Rover SD1. The front is good, the rear is good, interior little bit. I mean, it's the Scalextrics, isn't it? They never paint their interiors. I'm going to take mine apart and paint what should be white. And I think the massive parcel shelf, which isn't a parcel shelf in the back, should probably be aluminum. But I'm going to detail mine a little bit like that. But I haven't run mine yet. You have an issue with the tyres. I just pulled a tyre off here. They're very, very soft, aren't they?
They were lovely. Well, I see I had an issue with the tires. For I've got a lap timer, and I just click the lap timer on when I'm playing just to see what happened. And the rover was going. It easily did about 6 seconds, 0.6 something. So just not quite 6.5 seconds, which is pretty quick on my track. I tried the XGS; it was about 7.5. Tried the Camaro; it was about 7.3. So I thought, oh wow, this is good. Just for comparison, and because it was readily to hand, i.e., it was lying out of its box, I had a sideways 935, and it could just do a little bit. It's about a tenth faster than the Rover, and I thought this is pretty good. However, a day later, and all the Rover had done in the intervening period was sit on my desk. I could not get under 7 seconds. In fact, getting 7.1 was a bit of a struggle. That's just several laps. So half a second disappeared overnight. And having run it again, it won't go any faster. The sideways Porsche still does what it does, and the Jag and the Camaro still do what it does. And this plays to what I think I've noticed before, particularly on Carrera, but also on Scalextrics, that out of the box, the cars grip like Billio, but that after a little while, a few hours, a day, whatever, they don't seem to quite have that same bite.
Uh,
Now,
This is
is
using
that
standard tyres.
common? That this is just I don't do any oiling, sanding. I'll sand old tires that need it to be rejuvenated temporarily, um, but I don't do that as a standard. I'd literally take it out of the box, take the magnet out, run it.
Yeah, you see, I
So
I would immediately change the tyre, so I can't comment on how good or bad standard tyres are. I know Carrera tyres are supposed to be pretty poor. This I've got it in my hand now, and I'm squishing it. And this feels like a nice, good, soft tyre. I don't know how much grip it really will give, but it doesn't feel awful. I don't know. Do you think maybe your initial have you day two started being a little bit more delicate on the throttle because you appreciate the car more and you're shaking your head? No, you don't buy
no,
that theory.
I was. I don't know. It's no. I mean, I think everything and the shed is heated, so the temperature is consistent. It's not like one. All not a scientific test, but many of the variables, same voltage, same same temperature, same track, same controller, um, and it's just something that I've noticed on a number of cars, and I wonder my my conspiracy theory is that the tires are being made with something that's sort of biodegradable rather than petrochemical, and therefore are perhaps and maybe they always did lose a little bit. Any new tire in the real world, a new tire on a race car will give you 2 or 3 laps, which is great, and then it'll drop a little bit in performance. And if that's the case, fantastic. And I'm not really bothered. I mean, it was just that I happened to notice because I happened to do a few laps with it and then come back and did a few laps. But I would be, I think the bigger question about whether the tyres that we're now getting on our toy cars are going to last. I've got some SCX cars which are 30 years old, and they're not the grippiest things in the world, but they still work. They're still fine. I've got some cars which are a couple of years old, and I've had to replace the tyres
Well, you
on them.
have a fly car model that's 3 years old and the tyres turn to water. So I was going to accuse you of going
Anyway,
full Mulder and Scully with your theories,
the
but
truth is out there. We will find out. I will going to mount it as a quiet investigation.
can I ask,
Was that done?
set you some homework? Why not
Oh, why?
rub a little 3-in-1 on the tyres? Just a little, just a drop for a couple of days. Rub a little 3-in-1 around the tyre, and then see what kind of times you do. Or is that too much
Well,
like
because
preparation for you?
that's too much like preparation, and wouldn't it just melt the tyres, however
Well,
slowly?
well, I guess ultimately it does, but
I
like
I
decades.
I remember it. Well, when you say that, I remember
Did
doing. I think it was a 6 hour or a 9 hour or whatever it was. Anyway, quite a long race
God,
at as part of a team, obviously,
yeah.
and it was a wood routed track, and we could do pit stops where there was a powered piece of track beside the layout. You could pull the car off. You sprayed, I think it was WD-40 or maybe whatever it was, and you spun the tires in that oil, and you put the car back on the track, and it would literally leave black lines on the track as it pulled away. It lasted, it lasted about 10 laps, and of course you then lost that grip. So it must have been the reaction must have been fairly instant with the surface of the
Yeah.
tire. But yeah, but
I didn't think you did club racing.
again,
I've never done an enduro like that, and I'm kind of curious. I'm enduro curious. And there you are, just dropping into
well,
the conversation that you wanted to do a 6-hour race.
not only that, I once won one.
Okay,
I see.
now
I was in a team which won one, and I still have the car. For me, the key to endurance racing is to make sure you're on a team with some really good
yeah,
people.
that would be my tactic as
So,
well.
a bit like Steve McQueen coming second at Sebring. It was actually. I wanted to say Peter. Who was Peter Revson who came
Not
second?
only do my teammates need to be fast, they also need to be remarkably tolerant.
I think I feel that. Well, interestingly enough, I'm going racing again at club racing this week.
Well, then you definitely need to prep your tyres.
Well, possibly, but I don't do that sort of thing.
Mm.
I'm not good enough, so I would just lose by a slightly less of a margin having put in more effort. So the equation doesn't work for me. But we'll see. I'm going to go to a club that I used to go to occasionally when it first started, down near Chichester, which is a 6-lane wood routed track. Haven't been there for years. I mean, 10 years, maybe a bit more than that. So, but it's a mate who is running the night and things, so I'm going along, have a bit of play. And also, I'm planning on Saturday going to the South Coast Slot Car Club in Worthing, which attracted, well, both of our attentions, I think, didn't it? But attracted our attention because they're taking over a venue which I think is some sort of nightclubby dance venue by night, but during the day, obviously, has a relatively big clear floor. And they build a layout using Carrera, and they run. So start at midday and finish about 5 o'clock. And I think they run 3 or 4 different classes, and it's on the floor. The track varies every month. So no home advantage in that sense, but it does mean one of the classes is slotted DTM, and I haven't got one of those. So this week I'm going to have to source myself a slotted
You
DTM.
are. I can't believe you haven't sampled the joy that is the slotted DTMs. Outrageous.
Well, I presume it's as good as all the other slotted stuff, is it not? I mean, it's just.
It definitely is, but it's a DTM, Scott. A DTM, 90s DTM.
Well, but I've got all those Ninko ones, which are lovely.
Oh, yeah, they are, and they're of their time. And the slotted DTMs are very much of the now. So, what do you think you're going to go for? Because the new C class is lovely, but I think possibly the Calibra still rules the roost.
Well, is it quicker? Is it? There's a yellow C class which had looked. I think it's relatively new, so that
Pro-marked.
looked like a good choice.
It's a lovely car. I've got one.
The old 190E, I loved those at the time.
It's a lovely car. I've got one.
and I've got a bit of a connection with it because that engine was made by Cosworth. And I worked at Cosworth, so that feels like a connection. But that also would be a justification for um, the Calibra because that engine was made by Cosworth.
Was
In
it?
fact, that Calibra DTM engine, and I believe is a kind of 6-cylinder version of a DFV, basically.
Oh.
So it's quite a close relative. So yeah. So the race engine was made for the Calibra by Cosworth. The road car engine, or maybe just the head for the 190E, was designed or made by Cosworth. So it's always nice to have some sort of connection for it. But having said that, there's an Alpha going cheap on eBay.
Oh, but the Alpha is sweetly pretty. But don't get one of the early ones. The slotted early Alphas, don't ask me the model number, but the one that hasn't got all the body kit slapped on it definitely isn't a real contender. I would say in my experience, the descending order of goodness is Calibras at the top. The 190 is pretty darn good. 155 is as well. Oh, here I go, sort of contradicting myself. Actually, the 155 comes second. Right, keep up here. The list is changing as I write it. Calibra at the top,
Live.
155, 190, and then at the moment, because I don't have enough data, the C class.
Okay.
And if you're going to do that on Carrera track, you are going to have to oil your tyres, Scott.
No, I could just drive slowly in the corners and not come off. In my experience, if you're really good, you win races anyway. If you're not that good, the key thing, and I'm assuming they race crash and burn, because if they
I
don't
was
race
going to
crash
ask
and burn,
you. I think they
yeah.
do. Yeah.
So if they race crash and burn, then the crucial thing is don't crash.
Yep.
You're gonna do quite well if you don't crash. So that's going to be my tactic, and I'll let you know if it's not too embarrassing next week.
Well, that's soon. I am curious about his setup. Does he call himself Johnny's Workshop on eBay? I think, and on Slot Forum. I've had a little minor dealing with him because he sells light circuitry things on eBay, and I bought one because I've got to be in my bonnet about putting lights in cars. I bought one of his circuits, had basic numpty boy questions, and which he tolerated and answered really very quickly and very nicely. So I have some time for him, and I like the idea of what he's doing. But the Carrera track is the thing that's an issue there, because you will need some grip. The Carrera track has no grip.
Well, same for everybody and all that good
This is,
stuff.
yes, but if you want to rise above everybody else, then you.
Well, I've clearly I have a competitive nature because everybody does, but I'm not. I'm going because I think it's an interesting thing. It's not that far away. It's about an hour away from me. Uh, as I understand it, and I'll find out more when I go. It's a very clubs can be a little bit hard to find and a bit daunting to go to, and it's 7, 8, 9, 10 people who all kind of know each other. But this one, because it's a kind of pop-up shop, almost to use the modern terminology, it feels as though it's much more accessible. So
It's a pop up. I like the idea. It's a pop up racetrack.
well, it is.
You were
It
being
won't
very
exist.
very
It won't,
diplomatic there with how you were trying to describe club races.
well, I've said
They're a
before.
breed, basically.
I think. Well, I'm going to be. I would encourage people to go to a club if they
So would
want
I.
to, because I think it's good fun. There are people who want to win at all costs.
There
This
are.
is true of any activity. There are people who just want to go along and have a bit of fun. But I think one of the things, if you're used to just playing, and I use the verb advisedly, if you build a track on the living room floor and you push the furniture back every bank holiday, and that's what you're used to doing. And let's face it, that's what most of us started doing, if not still do. If you walk into a room and there's a big multi-lane layout, it is just awe-inspiring. And then when
Oh,
you're running, one of the joys of running two, three cars abreast, and that happens quite a lot. Even
yep,
if it's only for a few corners, it's
yep,
absolutely thrilling.
yep.
All for the price of a toy car sort of thing. So, yes, winning is nice and all that good stuff, but I would just advise people to go. But having said that, it's a big hurdle to overcome. Where are they? Who are they? Will they laugh at me? Will I be any good? All of these fears and worries are quite understandable. Every club I've gone to, and I've been regularly to one or two, and I've visited lots of other ones, every club has been welcoming and friendly. Once you get through the door, that's for well, no, even
You've never
yours.
been to Oxford then?
I have though a couple of times.
Yeah, I know you.
So I think it's but I can understand why people are reticent to do it. So that's partly why I'm partly. It's another club, another track I've not raced on. Although interestingly, after we race on it, it won't exist anymore because it'll get taken down, and
It'd be
next
ripped
month
apart,
it'll be
yeah.
a different So
Which I
which
think
again
is
is a nice
interesting.
appeal.
Yeah, because it sort of does away with home what's the word? Home advantage.
Advantage.
Yeah. Which I think, as someone who goes to a club, when you see a newbie turn up, there is that they are excited about the scale of the track, but then very quickly realise that it's a whole new ball game running on a big track and getting your braking right and so on, and it can be quite an eye opener and a disappointing eye opener for a lot of people to realise that there is more to it than just squeezing the trigger.
Yeah, and I think if it's a wood track and there's no magnets, then suddenly
Yeah.
that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Also, a plastic track at home, the older plastic tracks, which were quite forgiving of untrue wheels and axles. You weren't going that fast or anything. You put it on a long wooden straight, and suddenly every vibration or
Yeah.
out of true elements shows up. But nevertheless, most modern cars are pretty good in that sense. That out of the box, they've got the axles are true, the wheels are round, and although interesting, Johnny's put a video up of the Bastos Rover
Yes,
neatly
he has. Yeah.
tying two subjects together
Oh my god.
where
Yeah.
he's completely he seems to have changed the wheels, the tires, the axle, the gearing, the motor. He's sanded bits off it, and I'm thinking, okay, that's good. And this is not mean people can do what they like with their own toy cars. But you might say if you're going to take the sow's ear and then make it into a silk purse, why not just get a silk purse to start off with? But that's what I don't understand. I like the variation because I mostly play on my own. So sounds dubious, but uh, because it's the same track, the same power, the same me, the variations in the car are what bring me the fun. If all my cars performed roughly the same, then what's the point in running them? I enjoy the fact that some of my cars are fast and slow, and some slide about and some don't. But that's
But
me.
I am a little bit of a fly in the ointment, I think, at Oxford, because I slightly lament the fact that all the cars now, most of them, are just very, very fast and very stable, and they're all much of a muchness, really. Yeah, the angle winder motors, they're all darned fast and darned smooth and darned fun, but they're all kind of the same. NSR, scale auto, slot it. They're kind of samey, and we've just the phrase I think is sunsetted the SCX class that we used to have because you can't get the old style motored cars anymore, and they were so different. They were fun. They weren't super fast, and they had a completely different kind of characteristic in the motor, and that made them interesting. But everything's now becoming a little bit homogenized. But I've digressed. I wanted to shoehorn in to your Johnny's Workshop Worthing outing the fact that what caught my eye, see what I did, Scale Auto's track, which I have been holding out for, not holding out for, but I've been hopeful about, turns out to be Carrera compatible, which is disappointing because I haven't got the space. But Carrera compatible, but with grip.
It is, I think, yeah, it's an interesting thing that another new track
Exists.
I don't know how new it is exists. I mean, again, us old dinosaurs, there used to only be one track, or as far as we were aware.
The one
When we were
true
growing
track.
up, there was the one true track, and then we discovered that there's this thing called Carrera, and then there used to be Ninko, and Ninko was a little bit wider and it was better. So it feels like although cars come along several a month at the minute, and aren't we lucky about that? New tracks don't come along that often, or new track systems, and it's quite a big investment to change one of those. Says the man who changed from bought all of the Polycar stuff. So I thought it's interesting. One thing I liked about it, and again, we're referring to a presentation that was on slotblog.de, and it was in English because it was a Spanish chap talking to a German chap. I thought, oh no, it's a German talking to Spanish, yeah, so they communicated in English mostly. Yes, it's compatible with Carrera, so the same lane spacing, same width, but far more variation on the radii.
Yeah.
So tighter corners plus looser corners. Six different radius corners, I think. And a lovely little touch is that the start finish straight not only had start markings on it, but you can have anything you want: your club logo, your name, printed across the start finish line. That appealed to the egotist in me.
Whereas I heard him say that and just thought, why bother? Really?
Well, if you're going to have a layout, you want to call it something. You may as well have it. We could have
Yeah, I guess.
talking utter slot. We could have special edition track to go
Oh,
with the hoodies.
and the car stickers and coffee mugs.
Coffee mugs, I think, are an early must do. Actually,
Not so sure.
cast. What about a limited edition slot car with a talking utter slot logo on it?
Oh my word! How much would we have to fork out for that?
Quite a lot, but just
Yeah,
let's not worry about that. Yeah,
and you know what, Scott? We would both end up with lockups full of
we'd
them
have
10 years after the release.
I know. A limited run
Mhm.
of the Carrera racing truck, the British one, the British
Mr.
racing
Brownstone,
green
Mr. Brimstone.
Brimstone. We could have a limited edition run of that with. How about that?
Do Carrera do limited edition runs?
I've no. You keep coming up with practicalities.
Oh,
So
no, I'm sorry.
we're dealing in fantasy here, and all of it's fantasy actually because we haven't got tuppence to rub together, so we won't end up having a mug. Never mind a sticker. So, so I'm going racing, and I need to dig out cars. I need to dig out controllers, see if they work.
Did you
possibly
sort
borrow
out your
them.
controller? Doesn't is finish your sentence. The one that you're going to that's routed wood, is that Bolectric?
It is.
But they supply controllers, don't they? You don't have to take a controller.
Again, I haven't been for a long time. Usually, I mean, again, for those listening who've never been to a club and you think, oh, what do I need? I need to wire up a controller. I don't want to promise other people's, but if you go along and you haven't got something, the chances are the club or someone will lend you a controller. So, my so-called race case, which gets used twice a year, has got a couple of controllers in it. So, if somebody hasn't got one, I'm always happy to lend them to it. So I've got a couple which I think still work, and we'll see. In terms of the home track, I got a new Polycar controller. To replace the one that I'd worn out, but I also got the little gizmoidy things which I need to wire up so that I can plug the Parma type controllers. I think I've even got an old Fly controller, which I really don't know if it works or not.
I didn't know Fly did controllers.
Well, that's how old it is.
Wow.
So, I mean, it may just be a rebranded Parma. I don't know, but anyway, it's in a Fly box. So I need to just wire in this little plug I've got, which is essentially an adapter to be able to plug straight into the Polycar power base. But that would require things with screwdrivers and stripping wires and possibly soldering. So I'll put that off as much as possible. Yeah. I mean, in future we will do an episode about how I burnt down my house because I tried to solder the wires.
Well. No, got to stop you there. Got to stop you there. You don't solder stuff. You solder stuff.
You solder.
I know you do. Like, we have chassis, not chassis. Anyhow, let's not get too xenophobic. We need to wind this up shortly. I've just been, once again, whilst you were whittering on, I was listening, looking at my Bastos, which sounds like a euphemism. I just noticed that they've.
As long as you weren't stroking it.
Well, I probably have. The windscreen surrounds, front and rear, they've tried to make them chromed. I assume they were silvered or chromed, and the ones on the side are kind of like black for rubber. So they've actually, rather than cut a corner there, they've tried to model something that, they've tried to be
It's
accurate.
I think they've been. I mean, I'm a bit of a geek on this car. Again, for listeners who don't know, I was working at Austin Rover when this car was running and winning, and I attended some of the races and things. So, very close affection for this. I think there are always things that are not quite right, but attention to detail. For example, the B pillar, the one between the front and the rear doors, on this car is white, and I thought that's wrong. It should be black. But I went and looked at pictures of the car in this race, and they were indeed white. So spot on that one. But then, somewhat disappointingly, it's at the rear. It's got a twin exhaust sticking out, which is a road car thing. The race car didn't have a twin exhaust with a muffler hanging out the back of it.
I
So,
thought I found pictures that showed a Bass. I don't know if it's this particular, this very one, if this is particular to a race, that had the exhaust coming out under the driver's or the passenger's door, but also another one where it was coming out the rear.
well, you got to be careful because there may be replicas or indeed show cars that were made.
Yeah, I wondered
so
about
they'll be liveried up. The only other thing, which is, and I was delighted to find, the front spoiler isn't actually molded to the body; it's a separate piece, which means that they can, and I
You
hope.
speculate wildly.
Are you listening, Simon? I hope that means that the earlier spoiler, which was a different shape, otherwise the car was pretty identical, can be modelled, which means there's a whole other range of Rally Rovers and earlier BTC cars which can be done. So I have a large box full of reference photographs if you want them.
Oh, do you?
I do. In fact,
So-
I dug it out I dug it out yesterday, having not looked in it for years. This is stuff that I took home, in 1986, 87, something like that. So mostly black and white, but some colour stuff. So yeah, it was interesting to open that up and and smell the past.
And so, having said, I think we need to wind this up. I need to now ask you a question. The windscreen wiper on this Bastos does slightly annoy me because although it's correctly on the driver's side, it appears to be swinging from the wrong point.
You've out geeked me there.
And I put you on the spot, and I'm surprised you don't know the answers to that, Scott. I'm disappointed. Sorry.
Well, it just goes to show you how different we are. To me, the exhaust was important. To you, the wiper.
The other thing,
I will research and find out.
Okay, I need to stop pouring love on this car, but for some reason I do absolutely love it. I do. You pointed out that they haven't got the Austin Rover kind of logo-y bit. They've got the writing on the headlights, but not that weird chevron-y, diagonal thing, that logo bit that they had. I am amazed and pleased that they put the tiny little gold pinstripe that joins the white to the red on the bonnet, because I could imagine someone would go, oh yeah, we don't need to bother with that. Let's cut a little corner there, not to save money, just for the hassle factor. But it's there, and it just contributes to what it is. I think I'm going to say it. I'm going to annoy the North American listener, but I'm going to say it. I think this is car of the year. There.
Already? It's only February.
It's only February, and I'm saying this is car of the year, and you can stuff your Shadow DNF4.
So right, okay. So not the Polycar Ferrari, not the.
Oh my God, I forgot about the Polycar Ferrari. No, that's it. And actually, that Shadow, I'm not going to buy one, definitely, but I am.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, of course not. I'm really intrigued to see the model, because the model does. I think if they pull that off, then I will almost forgive them for that XJ220 abomination. I'm talking about Mr. Slot Car.
Okay, right. Okay. We'll revisit your feelings. That Jaguar, I think, is okay. In the absence of anything else, it's good. No, I love the SD1. I was, as you people will know, I was very worried that it wouldn't be great, and it is. I think it's very good. There are tiny little flaws in it from a model point of view, but I'm not worried about that. Does it go as fast as it? Does it go as fast as a Formula One NSR in Fittipaldi livery? Who cares? That's what I say. I've spent many, many minutes, not quite hours yet, but many, many minutes just lapping the track with this thing because it's lovely. So,
And I have yet
I
to
mean,
run mine, which is annoying.
well, maybe if you want to peel your tyres off and send me them, that would be great. Thanks very much.
Well, I have peeled the tyres off, and I will be replacing them.
Well, there's a home here for unused SD1 tyres.
I'll put them in a box.
Purely for scientific purposes, so I can test before and after.
Yeah.
I
You
am
need a
seriously
control
going to. Well, I've already ordered the next one, which is the Marlboro liveried car.
What?
As we've mentioned before, yeah, there's a Marlboro liveried SD1 coming.
No.
I hope there's yes.
Man goes
I hope they
to
do.
pendleslot.co.uk very quickly.
Well, we'll let you do that then. Okay, let's call it a holiday. Well, Pedro
we're
goes and
floundering,
spends
sorry.
more money on something he doesn't want. If
Or
you've
need.
been listening this far, God knows why. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you
Medals will be
we'd
issued.
love to hear from people. Medals will be issued. Campaign medals. I got to episode 8. Yay!
So did we.
Let us know
Yay.
on the forum, on Twitter, or whatever. It'd be nice to hear from people. But anyway, thank you for listening, and we'll be bothering you again soon. Bye for now.
Cheerio.